Hey, real quick before we dive in, if you're a woman in midlife who's tired of the cliches and ready to live out loud, we're glad you're here.
Because you are definitely in the right place. We're not here to age gracefully. We're here to age boldly. So if you love real talk, big laughs, and the occasional spicy truth bomb, make sure to follow us on TikTok at Spicy Midlife Women for even more unfiltered midlife magic. It's Jules and Michelle, and we are here, your two spicy midlife women from the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington, sharing our real life stories and having no BS conversations with each other, but mostly with all of you. Right, Michelle?
Oh, absolutely. That's 100% right. Here to help all you midlife women redefine relationships, ditch toxic cycles, and reclaim your power one episode at a time. Let's get into it, Jules. What are we going to be conversating about today?
Conversating?
Yeah.
All right, we are conversating. So this is a good one because it's something that I have kind of near and dear to my heart, but we're going to talk about redefining romantic relationships after divorce because it's something that people don't really think about too much. They just go, okay, it's time to go out there and see what's out there and who might be there that might be compatible with me, if in fact that's even what they're wanting to do. But nobody really thinks about what you need to do in advance of that, whether it be kind of determining what your standards are, your expectations, some of the things we've talked about, and how not to get back into those toxic cycles that you might have been in before when you were married.
Right.
And you don't want to just like have Groundhog's Day and redo
or
everything.
Even after you were married.
Yeah.
Like even if you've gone through some of this already, just some of the stuff we want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I can speak from my own experience that not having zero understanding of really what the dating world was like after being married for a really long time. So I'm sure a lot of women out there can identify with that and thinking, no big deal. I got this. This is not a big deal, right? It's a lot bigger deal than I thought it was.
Because you're on a mission. You're like starting this whole new venture.
Mm-hmm.
It's been this very intentional decision that you've made to move on in your life. And honestly, I just am remembering for me, when you actually move through all of that, all the highs and the lows and the dynamics and the drama and everything that is surrounding that time. And then you're like, I was kind of lost.
Oh my gosh.
Quite honestly.
Well, you think you know what you're doing, but you really don't. Yeah.
Right.
And I think going into that, I mean, for all you women out there who are recently out of relationships and haven't quite figured out what your next step is, if it's even to go back into a relationship, depending upon where you're at in your life and, whether that's even something that's important to you. And we'll talk about that in a little bit later. Just a conversation I had with somebody that was very poignant. It was interesting for me to hear what she had to say. But for myself, it was like, I was just thinking, no big deal. I think I'm a relationship person, or at least I thought I was a relationship person. And so I just thought it would be easy to be out there. And what I found was that I wasn't necessarily, well, first of all, a lot of the dating and stuff these days is through the online channels. And you meet someone in person like you used to, not as nearly as often, I think, as one might think. And there's ways to go about doing that, which we can talk about as well. But I came to realize that I just really had a shitty picker. Like
a shitty picker.
A shitty picker. Like I'm picking what I think is good. But then I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, clearly I am not picking like people that are individuals that I would even be interested in long term. So then I just decided I was going to have fun.
I think looking back for me, it's almost like I recognize kind of the phases now, but it took me longer then to realize what those were. So first and foremost, recognizing who I was without what I had been doing for so long in my marriage.
Yeah.
Right. So,
you mean the habits that you had developed were more survival habits in marriage.
Well, yeah, in marriage,
towards the latter part.
And then, when that's over with and you're moving through and you're divorced and you're on your own, it's like, okay, now I have to navigate. In a way, it's like this identity loss, right? And
even if it wasn't something that you felt really great about.
100%.
Yeah.
That's who you were for me, it was, 26 years. And it's this rediscovery and reconnection with really what your desires are. Okay. So I knew this wasn't what needed to be for my life, and you intentionally go through all the dynamics are different for everybody, but you go through this whole process and make the decision to move on in life, and then it's like, okay, I did this, now what?
Now what do I do?
Now what do I do?
But Michelle, to your point, the first time you were going through all of this, meaning hadn't been married, you were just dating or whatever, you were just young. We were both young.
Yeah.
I mean, now women, I think, are waiting a little while longer to really kind of get into relationships that are quote committed relationships or marriages. But the person that you were when you were 21 is a very different person that you were when you got divorced.
Sure.
And so when you're talking about desires or you're talking about things that you wish or whatever, you don't really even have the experiences to refer back to in some respects. I mean, obviously from your marriage, there are going to be good times. Otherwise, why would you get married, right? But, you just know what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like this whole new chapter.
Right.
And moving on and kind of grieving the loss of all of those years and the person that I was and still am. I'm still a mom. It's not like that identity goes away. It's just different.
Well, do you feel like during the course of a very long relationship, you have, like you said, kind of lost your identity? And this is something that I think a lot of women can identify with, because everything that we do, we don't put ourselves really first. If you've got a family or you've got career, you've got all that stuff, we've got that whole mindset that we got it. We can handle it. We're strong. We will be there for everybody else. But then there's really not a lot left. And so then all of a sudden you've got the time, to really reflect on that and evaluate, what is it that I want? And you don't even have an answer for yourself.
Yeah.
You just know it's not what you had. You want it to be better. That you didn't, the feeling that you had, is what you don't want to continue to experience. You want to get into something that is going to be more fulfilling.
Well, and before you even do that, I think then comes this period of a self-romance, right?
Yeah.
And learning how to thrive solo, not necessarily just surviving as single. I was surviving married and that whole thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And now here I am, whole new set of circumstances. And that difference, looking back, I can see that there is a difference between what it means to thrive solo or just surviving single, because I was surviving single for probably 3 years after I decided to, move on. And
so when you say surviving single, do you mean you were just trying to, like, not the single part, but just trying to navigate being independent?
Just navigating being a single mom.
Okay.
Because I had kids, navigating, that work-life balance with new things. I had to, I didn't have another person to, somewhat count on, if you will, and figuring it all out on my own. That's kind of the survival part.
Okay.
Right? But then there comes the thriving, and that didn't come until I was, getting through the survival part for a couple of years. And then I found that I was kind of getting a grips on what it was. It's not perfect, but I was figuring things out, still surviving. But then there's this thriving piece, and that's really when you start identifying who you are and the wants, needs, and desires that you have for yourself, and really creating joy and the consistency of rituals, even if you will, of what self-love is, and that whole discovery. and starting to rewrite your own personal love story from the inside out, right?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
But it doesn't come right away.
No. How could it?
No.
How could it? Because you don't necessarily know. I mean, I think going into the whole idea of singlehood, like you were saying, being single, having a child, like you had more than one child to deal with. I had one that was, a teenager, which is probably, one of the worst times. And you don't realize how much everything is affecting them just as much as, if not more, is affecting you, because they're not really involved in some of the conversations that are around things. So when you say survival, I think that we have a tendency to not give ourselves enough credit where that's concerned, because we were already surviving. We were already handling a lot of these things, and the thought process behind. And I can tell you, I kind of was scared, the whole, oh, how am I going to do this on my own? Well, I already was.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it like from a financial standpoint, I was able to take care of myself. I wasn't getting a lot of emotional support. I'm not dogging out my ex-husband. This is not what this is about. This is more like trying to evaluate, where my head was at, and just knowing that the relationship aspect of it was what was just a dry desert. There was nothing there. So I knew that was something that I would definitely want in a very different way, or not want at all.
Yeah.
And so, jumping into that was very naive for me. I think, like, I thought I knew what I was doing, but really I had no business getting into a serious relationship.
Yeah. And I didn't really even date. And so I just go back to some of that stuff I was just talking about, really creating a self-love, and understanding what it is to create joy for yourself, and starting to tap into that from the inside out. I think really until you do that, going into what would be, I guess, a healthy relationship after a divorce, I just think it takes some time.
Yeah.
That's
do you think you can go right into a healthy relationship? Because
I personally don't think so. Not a healthy one right away. This is just me, my own perception, my opinion. I think you've got to take time for yourself coming out of something like that, and really come to identify some of those key things within before you can just step in and think that everything's going to be groovy, even forward.
With an amicable divorce, even in a situation where there aren't any kids, where you are just parting ways, there's still this.
Give yourself time.
I know.
You
there's
really
this
do.
feeling of loss, even though it's what you wanted, even though it wasn't maybe good when you ended up. There's still this feeling of loss, and to me, it seems very difficult to kind of set that aside so easily.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are really unresolved.
And it's not.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard, where there's all those dynamics,
right?
Whether it's amicable or not, there is, I believe, going to be a sense of loss, that feeling. And it's really going to be something you have to move through and get over and come to an understanding before you can put time and energy until you're whole. Kind of,
Well, and you can go into things and not be whole, and you don't even know it.
Sure.
Let me ask you a question. This has kind of come up recently, where I was talking just different people, nothing specific, but I've noticed, and I don't know if this is a female thing or a male thing, predominantly a male thing, but I've noticed with men in particular that they have difficulty being alone, or at least, and that's a general statement. I get it. Not every man is like that.
I think women are like that too. I think that's just.
But I mean, to the point of where, I've really noticed it. It's kind of like they've moved on so fast because they really can't be alone. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how are you supposed to even be present with someone when you're still grieving this thing that's happening over here?
Well, and that's where, ladies, you have to, if you're, starting to explore relationships and moving into something new after a divorce, that's where, I think focusing more on compatibility. I think what you're talking about, Jules, is codependency.
Okay.
That's where, they've lived their whole life to become dependent on that other person, and they don't really know
what to do
without them. So, men and women, that's why I say, ladies, really taking time for yourself and not jumping right into something, I think is super important after a divorce.
Yeah. So there's that whole period of time too where you're reflecting and you're trying to determine what your next steps are. But, girls got needs. So then what do you do?
Well,
That's where friends with benefits comes in, you guys. And that's a whole nother topic,
it sure
to
is.
chat about. But anyway, I've thought about that a lot because I'm like, it's so easy. I had this one girl one time tell me that she was a serial monogamist. Like she would be in these relationships and she was, oh my gosh, I'm so in love and I'm da 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 da. And then they break up and they hated each other. Then literally a week later,
moving on.
She'd be in another relationship.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, you just were with so-and-so.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
a serial monogamist,
we've talked about these things in the past and, exploring yourself, and there is self-satisfaction, and there are ways of,
Michelle's talking about masturbation, just so you guys know.
There are ways of taking care of those needs. Even when you're in a relationship, I'm just saying though, it doesn't always have to be with somebody else.
No.
So
that is true.
No,
because there's all the other, there's all
it better than yourself. I'm just saying.
Well, there and there's so many other things that correspond with, letting someone else get that close to, physically close to you, not necessarily mentally close to you, but physically close to you, because there's a whole thing about where the heck has that person been? And, is this really what I want? And do I feel good about this? And, everybody's a little bit different. And some people are okay with it. Some people aren't. I mean, I've dabbled in all of that stuff just because I'm more curious than anything else. And it's fun, but you just have to understand that you're not in a position where you're catching feelings for any of these people. They're just like a toy, someone that you're going to play with.
I mean, I love what we just said a few minutes ago, and I think redefining a relationship after a divorce is really based around the compatibility versus the codependency, and that's where that time for take time for yourself and really come to recognize what brings you joy. Those kinds of things that we've been talking about, I think, are really important in regard to redefining and coming to know yourself in those ways are going to make a difference with what you do in a relationship going forward. It might take you longer.
Well, and it's not about whether you're a confident woman or not.
Not at all.
It has nothing to do with confidence.
No.
Because you might be a very confident woman. That could actually be a detriment in some ways because you think kind of like I did. Like, oh, I've got this. This is no big deal. When I'm ready, when I want to, it'll be fine. And it really was not at all what I had anticipated.
Because you have different expectations.
Yeah.
And things in mind that you don't want to do again.
Yeah.
And again, no, we're not throwing shade to our ex-husbands or anything like that. But these are just things for me that I came to know through the process.
Right.
This identifying who I really was. And it's really a beautiful thing. And once you do that, and it's always a journey, but it definitely makes it a more enjoyable journey. It kind of, when you have those standards, which I know we just talked about in a recent episode, we do have those standards within that matter. That you're not going to...
they matter to you. They might not matter to other people.
But I mean, for who else? What does it matter? Who else they matter to?
Yeah.
So mattering to yourself, ladies, that's the most important thing.
So I think sometimes the jumping into things is also a form of validation. That someone needs that type of validation. Maybe that's the type of relationship that they had with their ex. That's kind of how it got started. Who knows? I mean, all of you guys out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what you've tolerated. You know what you've put up with. And, of course, you're not angels either. We're not all, it takes two, right? To make a relationship work or to fail.
Yeah.
So I'm not blaming the men on all of this stuff, of course, but we have to kind of define and own whatever our contribution was and make the steps or take the steps to do it differently in the future so we don't repeat the same toxic cycles like we've been discussing.
Well, and I think too, part of that is making peace with your past.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Every situation is different.
And that takes time as well.
It does take time, so before you can move on into your future, making peace with your past, being able to let go and move on, I think that's really key.
Have you found that it has taken you, like, just think of your own circumstances so we can share this. It's like, has it taken you time to get through things that you have felt resentful about? Or did you ever get through things that you felt resentful about, or did you let them go?
You know what? Letting it go is what helped me to do that. Because I there's no other way. There was no other way for me but to let it go. Because
so it's forgive, not forget.
Forgiving, right? Yeah, you just got to forgive, let it go, whatever it is. And I'm sure it was the same for my ex-husband, forgiving, letting go, whatever it is. It goes both ways. But for me, I can only speak to that. That's what I had to do. And because there's stuff I could have held resentment. I could still hold resentment for.
I think that's what eats people up inside.
It does not do me any good. It weighs heavy, and honestly, just makes you older than you need to be.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, I think that was a really hard thing for me. And it's taken time to really have that shift in my mindset. Not that I think the resentment came from a lot of things that I maybe was harboring, while I was married, because I wasn't dealing with them. I was just letting them build up and build up and build up. If you think about that, and then certainly something is going to happen where everything's going to come tumbling down. If you don't deal with those kinds of feelings, then they will carry on into other places where you may have resentment for different things with another person, or the same type of things.
Yeah.
If you don't allow yourself to deal with it.
We talked about that a couple episodes ago too, right? That baggage, that is the last thing you want to do, is bring it into a new relationship. Yeah. So until you can let that go and find joy within yourself, really.
Well, let's stop there for a second.
Okay.
Because I agree with you about.
Is there a but?
I agree about letting things go, but I also think that it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to take whatever it is that you've learned and it's sitting in the back of your mind. So
of course,
maybe you've let it go, but have you really let it go if you're like watching for that in other people or in other circumstances to protect yourself?
Well, I mean, here we go. This could be a whole other episode, because that's where communication comes in. And you can share those things once you do start to move through, become a little more confident in yourself, finding that joy, and really spending time intentionally with who you are, or who you're becoming, which will be different coming out of that.
Right.
And bringing, when you do start to get into another relationship, then it's the communication piece with some of those things. Because yes, of course, it will matter the way you might respond to different things, the way you could have let them go with this other person, but there is still those things that come to fruition as you deal with situations in a new relationship. So the communication that you have based around maybe what a reaction has come from. I mean, I experienced that recently with the relationship that I'm in now. The way I responded to something, and I really had to explain myself, based on, I'm used to just taking care of things and what I have to do, and I do it scrappily, and it's the survival thing that I do, and recognizing that it doesn't have to be that way, because I have this person now that loves me and is willing to help with things and take care of. And that's hard for me because of where I came from.
Yeah.
So,
because you're like, really? Are you really taking care of? Is he really taking care of me? Sure.
Yeah, I like being able to communicate that with what you got going on. And then you put it on the table and it's like, okay, I see that. I recognize it. I understand it. And here's where we are. So, there's all different facets, but yeah.
Why do you think that community is so important for us as we have gone through some of this and, experienced relationships and things like that? Like having I can say for myself, it's like having my very close friends to hear me rant or, just let me download on and not judge me was really, really important.
I think that, I mean, we're midlife women.
Mhm.
That's who we are. And having a community of people that understand what we're going through, because people are going through it and you don't even know. So, being able to have people that you can lean on that have gone through or understand what they're going through because they've been through it
Right.
already.
Or they may be planning to go through it or
Yeah, and
know
they
that,
just
they see what's going on with
haven't
you.
even made those steps forward yet. Just being able to have that support and somewhere where you can talk through and ask questions and things like that. I mean, I did not have that.
No.
And so navigating a lot of that myself, that's why I can look back and go, oh,
Mhm.
I kind of did a lot of this stuff and it took me a lot longer probably than when you have a supported community of women that are there to help you go through that.
Right. I mean, obviously I had Mary and she was very
Yeah.
close to me, but there's a balance between having somebody to help you walk through things and then just continuing to talk about the same thing over and over again and not doing anything about it.
Yeah, that was me.
Like venting,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's that period of time where you're like, am I saying too much?
Mhm.
Am I talking too much about what's going on? Am I not making any solutions? Because I hear people sometimes and I'm the sounding board, right? And this isn't just women, but men too, just friends or whatever. But it's like they're complaining, they're upset, they're angry. And it's like my first inclination is to try and help them find a solution. And that's not necessarily what
I
they're
know.
wanting, right?
Yeah,
And so you have to define what is it that you want from, bending your friend's ear? Is it just
Mhm.
a friendly, someone to give you encouragement and to let you know you're on the right path? Or are you asking someone to help you solve your problems?
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we will solve our problems just by sheer conversation with
Mhm.
people and learning about what other people are doing. It helps us formulate maybe our opinion or our direction.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you're going to copy someone else's decision making or path or process or anything like that. It's just trying to figure out what works for you.
Mhm.
And so anyway, I say all that to say it's like, is there a period of time where you just become kind of silent when you're making decisions?
I think so.
Yeah.
There was for me.
Yeah.
Different for everybody, but I think there was for me for all the reasons you just talked about.
Yeah.
I found myself talking about it and talking about it, and I was like, "Girlfriend, you gotta shit or get off the pot.
That's exactly.
Quit talking about it.
Yeah.
Make some decisions."
But it's scary.
And then I kind of went within. I
Mhm.
started making those decisions when I decided to divorce and move on.
Mhm.
And yeah, so and again, I think a good chunk of time redefining who you are, coming to recognize things about yourself, looking for that joy and what really brings that to you
Mhm.
is really going to help to redefine any relationships that you have going forward
Yeah.
and what you bring into that because of the stability that you have created within your own self
Right.
since that time,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It makes actually pretty darn good sense.
Pretty good darn
Pretty
sense.
good darn sense.
And the sisterhood and community, we've got that for you here, ladies, spicy midlife women. We're just trying to share our own experiences
Mhm.
with any of you out there that are going through it now.
Yeah.
And maybe just with anything that we do share, save you some time in
Mhm.
how you go about things. So,
Yeah.
and just knowing that you're not alone.
That's huge.
That's the big part.
One thing I wanted to mention that was actually very helpful for me when I feel like I was going through a super, super dark time,
Mhm.
and I just went back and reread this stuff maybe a couple months ago, is I had this really silly little journal. It was just a silly little journal, but it was like I forced myself to do it. And it was the three things that day that I was grateful for.
Mhm.
Super simple.
Yeah.
And I went back and looked at the things that I had written down when I was going through this super dark time. And it was this basic stuff. Like I was excited to come home and see my dogs.
Right.
I mean, little things that it's like, I mean, I wasn't asking for these big, huge signs from anything. I was trying to keep my head above water. I was trying to say there is joy. That was my way of saying, there are really good things out there in this world for me. It's like right now is really tough.
Yeah.
But I know that there's good stuff coming in the future. So I just wanted to share that because I'm one that will start something and I won't necessarily continue to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't continue to do it probably after a couple months, I think maybe 2 or 3 months. And then I felt like I didn't need to do it anymore. But it was kind of enlightening because going back to look at it now, I know what the feelings were that I had during that period of time and how I just was so out of sorts, and I clearly conveyed it on paper, and
I like that.
Yes, you can see how much I should say, how much I have grown and changed and really kind of tried to put some basic things into place and could see progress. And so I guess I say all that to say the ladies who are out there experiencing, like you said, the beginnings of or the endings of, trauma in a relationship or sadness or, maybe it's not divorce, maybe you become a widow. There's lots of different things that could happen. Or you've been betrayed, by your significant other and they've stepped out when, it's a bad time in your marriage, whatever the case may be. It's like you have control over everything that you bring to it. And sometimes it's very easy to forget that, so it's going back to those basics to try to help yourself.
And those are the things that can help you to rewrite the next chapter.
Yep.
Reimagining whatever love is for you and whatever the power is that you want in a partnership, do it. Knowing those things will help you to be able to do it on your own terms, right? So I guess I would just encourage everyone to live loud. Okay. Love intentionally and just never shrink.
Yeah.
Again, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to be like crazy, like all over everything.
No.
But, it's like your inner peace is there and you know what your value and your worth is, right? So that's where you remain. So anyway.
So just want to remind everybody we are out there on the socials. So go check us out, Spicy Midlife Women. And we're on Instagram, Facebook. You might even see us on TikTok, occasionally on YouTube as well. But like I said, just go take a look. Please follow us, like us, share us with your friends if you like what you're hearing. And we just like spending time with all of you every week.
I know. And I get to spend time with Shelly when we record.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss her. Even though we live in the same basic place, we don't see each other sometimes for like a week or two at a time.
Yeah.
Seems.
Yeah.
Anyway, stay spicy, ladies.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Have a good one.
We'll be back next week.
Yep.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.